All right, I am here with a pregnant and now casual Alyssa Farah Griffin.
Right, it's sweatpants only going
As soon as the
forward.
announcement comes out, you're just like, you're enjoying life. I don't blame you.
No, you had something important to do after that the audience will find out about. So it's like, I'm getting comfortable. I'm not staying in a tight dress with this baby bump going on.
How are you feeling now that it's out in the world that you're pregnant?
I feel so good. Well, first and foremost, I was like so thrilled by how the announcement went and just all the love I got to hear from viewers and stuff. My favorite were all of the like, I don't agree with you, but I'm so happy for you.
It was really,
because you know that it's like something that just people, if they've been there or they know people who have, and they're so excited when someone gets to the
if you're
other
a human
side.
being, I mean, it's just
it's the best news you're gonna get,
especially since you've kind of taken everybody on the journey a little bit.
Yes.
But, did you hear from people that didn't know in your real life and things like that?
So yes, a lot of like my DC friends, you know how you want to tell everyone individually, but I think there were a lot of friends I would have liked to, but that everyone was just excited for me. But the one thing I keep joking about is I'm like, now I actually am just letting my belly out. I've been like sucking my baby in for weeks. I'm like, that can't possibly be good. And it's so relieving. And I walk around and I keep catching a glimpse of myself. I'm like, oh, I am really pregnant.
You look great. You look great. I mean, is it what has Justin had to say?
So, okay. Overall, I think it's a scientific thing. Like, men are more attracted to their women when they're pregnant. Like, he's constantly like, you look amazing. You look the best you ever have. But he had one mess up. I've kind of been dodging him, and I was getting out of the shower, and he's like, oh, wow, you are getting big. And I looked at him like that was
Justin.
The last time we're ever going to see Justin again.
Rookie mistake, Justin.
And then
Come
he immediately is like, no, I just meant you know.
You're glowing.
You've been
glowing.
hiding it so well.
You know.
It was so
Yeah,
funny.
no.
We were laughing so hard. He's like, that came out wrong. But I keep noticing it too. Like you also, I'm like, I was talking to Sunny about it. Like, we're both petite, so like being pregnant, you feel it quickly once it starts happening.
I'm sure. No, it's a big change, obviously, and you're very pregnant. I mean, it's not like you just started.
Yeah, I think he's close to the size of a cantaloupe. I'm coming up on 23 weeks, so I think he's like, I don't like the 22-week marker. They say banana because it's for length, but I like to know the full circumference of my little guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, I think it's all exciting, and yeah, I remember tracking all that stuff. And did you do a 3D sonogram? Have you done that yet?
No, we did the full anatomy, which was exciting, but that I'll be so excited for.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Without saying anything, this is such a weird thing to share, but I found it adorable. We knew the sex before the full anatomy, but they kind of confirm it with you. We had an idea of it, and they did the angle, and it's like they're like, sometimes you won't necessarily be able to tell. It was very clear it's a boy. Like, it was the funniest thing. I was just like, oh. Oh,
wow. So like Taylor Swift running a track about him? Like, is that what we're talking about? Or like
it was just the way that they did it was the funniest thing, because it's like like the hand is like barely developed, but I was like, oh wow, those parts of us develop apparently very early.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, God bless.
Sorry, that's so inappropriate.
All right. No, it's hysterical. All right. Let's talk this. Let's change gears and talk about some hot topics. It was
embarrassing my child already. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we'll start the file and we'll give it to him when he's older. Obviously, today was a historically significant day because the hostages were released finally after 2 years. And let's talk about the significance of this ceasefire. U.S. brokered, and between Israel and Hamas, the 20 living hostages were returned today. Why do you think President Trump was able to do this when others had not been as successful?
That's a good question. I think it's a lot of factors. I do think that there has been work underway to do this, and to give Biden credit, he was absolutely trying when he was in office. And a moment that I thought actually was very important was after Trump won, but Biden was still in office, Steve Witkoff, who works for Trump, was working directly with Antony Blinken. And so there was, for two administrations that do not like each other at all, they saw this as so important that they were working side by side.
It's great that there are still things that can happen
that kind of rise above that. They were negotiating with the Qataris. But to some part of this is the circumstances. There is so much public outcry from all sides. The families have been devastated. They have been pleading with the Israeli government to get the hostages back. But Hamas is also very depleted. And I think that there was a sense that this is an opportunity where they're the most weakened they have been, and it's kind of offering them an off-ramp. I think this is a tremendous historic day. And I believe that history is chock full of imperfect figures doing extraordinary things. And when they happen, we should celebrate them. There's a lot of things to be sad about, to be angry about in our society. And there'll be a day for those. There'll be many days to talk about those things. But this specifically hurt. There's been so much human suffering on both sides of it that, like, I applaud how we got there. I applaud that it appears to be holding. And I've spoken to friends in Israel who are saying this feels different. There's this hope that, I mean, the 20 hostages, the living hostages, are home. So that alone is such a tremendous victory. But there is a real feeling that the bloodshed in the war is actually over. So I'm just praying that that's the case.
Me too. I know you've been wearing a yellow pin for the last 2 years in honor of these hostages. Tell me about that and and what it means to you now not to be wearing that.
I know. So Sarah Haynes and I both have, and she actually had brought it to me. She said, "Hey, I'm going to be wearing this," because she'd, I think, heard from some of the hostage families, and I had met with some of them. And it was remarkable how much that small gesture meant to those families. To just feel like every day someone was remembering, as we went about our days, walking our dogs and feeding our families, that there was a member of their family that was missing and that was in horrific conditions and that needed to be advocated for. And this morning we both said, should we wear them out? And we're like, we shouldn't. Because the living hostages are home, we still want to see all of the bodies returned, and I hope that happens. But it was incredibly significant. I mean, it's hard to express how much October 7th and the aftermath has impacted not just Israelis, but like Jews all over the world.
Yeah.
And just the feeling, the scars of that. I feel that the hostages, some of them still being in captivity, just kept it as this thing that you couldn't try to move on from. You couldn't try to move forward from. So having those people home I think means just so much to that community.
You also talked this morning about the horrific innocent deaths that happened of Palestinians, and the numbers are really staggering, and it's horrific.
Well, and that's why I think it's so important, like my family hailing from the Middle East, that people remember a lot of these conflicts have spanned not decades, but millennia. They are so deeply rooted. They'll never, I hope, but they'll probably never fully be over. But you have to remember to separate the civilians who get caught in the crossfire of these conflicts from the bad actors. Hamas is a U.S.-sanctioned terrorist organization. They've killed Americans. They've killed Israelis. They've sown discord throughout the Middle East. They're funded by the Iranians, the biggest state sponsor of terror. They should always be denounced. I still want to see them eradicated in the right way. But that does not mean we shouldn't honor and think of and pray for the uplifting of the lives of so many Palestinians who've been displaced, who have wanted this conflict over as much as every Israeli does.
What do you see as a path forward for Palestinians?
So from what I know of the 20-point plan, which has been released, I should say what we know of it, because we don't have all of the details. It gives me hope. So Ian Bremmer, who's the president of the Eurasia Group and no fan of Donald Trump's foreign policy, said this actually looks like a very thoughtful plan for the region. There's tremendous international aid that's going to go in. So first and foremost, food, water, medical supplies that people need, but there has to be some kind of reconstruction. I mean, Gaza is basically rubble at this point, and there has to be an incentive for economic investment. One of the ways that, like, throughout the Middle East, that you've seen nations move away from extremist, terrorist-aligned values is often to have economic opportunity and a self-determination where people can believe what they want to believe. They can live their lives the way they want to. And I want to see that. I don't believe that can coexist with Hamas being in power, but I think that's a conversation for tomorrow.
Right.
That's how that happens, how they're forced out of power, how Palestinians stand up to them and, declare that this is their land and not theirs. That's something that has to happen. But I think that there's a lot of steps in the right direction.
While all of this is happening abroad, and it's, like you said, incredibly historic, important, we also have a government here in America that is still shut down and now on day 13. It actually feels longer to me.
It does, yeah.
Do you see any movement with this at all?
So, and by the way, because I've always been opposed to this shutdown and other I've been opposed to recent shutdowns or talks of shutdowns. I would just remind folks, I think for people in Congress who are like, this is going to stop Donald Trump in his tracks. He was in Israel earlier. He's in Egypt today, and he's doing peace deals. Like if the goal was you're bringing him to a screeching halt, that's not really happening. But it's bringing Congress and the people's work in goods and services that should go to the public to a screeching halt. I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure starting this week to find some kind of solution. paychecks for military members, for federal employees. This will be the first lapse in payment. And I think that's when real pressure sets in. But also some of the goods and services people rely on. Like I mentioned, WIC benefits. The White House is looking for a workaround so that they'll still go out to women and children. But I don't know how long that's sustainable for. Like people rely on these things, and it's going to become untenable that they're just members of Congress will hear from their constituents and I think have to do something. But I have two predictions. This goes one of two ways.
Yeah.
I don't think Trump actually cares about the Obamacare subsidies. And what I mean by this is he's not a traditional conservative. He's not Paul Ryan who wants to like cut entitlements and replace them with a free market-based program around healthcare. He's a guy who wants to get elected and he wants to have people support him. And a lot of his voters are relying on those subsidies. So I could see a world where he either comes around to a legislative solution and takes credit for it and says, okay, we're including these, but we're also going to do funding at this level and whatever. Or he might try to extend them by executive order, which would get caught up in the courts, but he could try to do. And in that move, he would completely basically cut the Democrats out of the process.
But still give them what they want, more or less.
Still give them what they want, but then he would basically be banking on who's going to message this better to the public.
Well, speaking of the public messaging, who right now is doing a better job of it, do you think? Who is being hurt here the most, party-wise?
I don't think it's good for either side, but I don't really think it's impacting Trump. I think it's like Mike Johnson versus Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer.
Right. And the optics of the House not being there does seem to be bad for the Republicans a little bit, or you don't think it's cutting through?
I think it's hard to say. So the polling ahead of it suggested that slightly more by like 8 points would blame Republicans compared to Democrats, but the exact same number, 34%, would kind of just blame everyone. I think I'm pretty strongly in the blame everyone camp.
Right.
I guess it depends on how it's resolved. If Democrats walk away with a victory, I think, and they're able to communicate that, which is the open question, then I think they may not get blamed. But I think a lot of people just feel frustrated, like, you guys have to solve this.
Yeah. No, I mean, there aren't any negotiations going on. And I think that's very frustrating for people, too. But to your point, it's actually makes a lot of sense, the idea that Trump would try to fix it without negotiating with anybody.
Yeah, I haven't, like, that's me purely floating that, but I know the people around him, and I see that, like, Steve Bannon and Marjorie Taylor Greene are putting pressure on him to extend these subsidies, and they do go to his voters, so I could see him, like, being like, well, I don't even need the Democrats in Congress.
What do you make of the Marjorie Taylor Greene of it all?
Okay, so two things. I hadn't thought of this when we talked about it last week. There are rumors she wants to run for governor of Georgia or for a Senate seat down the road.
You think she's deliberately going more moderate?
That's a theory, but you don't go from some of the really wild things she said to that quickly. I actually think that her district, which is very red, she's like a R+30 district, meaning like a Dem's not going to win there in the next however many years. But it's not a high income district, so I think that she has a ton of constituents who are impacted by these subsidies being phased out. And so she must just be hearing from people.
You think it's authentic?
I actually think that's still the most powerful thing with members of Congress is hearing from their constituents back home.
All right. Well, it's interesting.
Even though she's at no risk of losing her seat, I think it becomes really hard when your phone's ringing off the hook and people are telling you, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to pay my healthcare bills if these run out.
Absolutely. All right. Now, from politics to pop culture. One thing we haven't talked about with you on the podcast is Taylor Swift. I alluded to it before. How do you rate it? You're our resident Swiftie.
Excellent. And here's okay. There are strong opinions on both sides.
There really are. I wouldn't say backlash per se, but I think people are being harder on it than they should be.
They're being way too hard. So we knew this was going to be a pop-driven album because I think there was initial backlash to Tortured Poets Department that it was too, like, more like the lyrics and the emotions, but maybe didn't have the bops of, like, previous albums. There's no, like, shake it off on it. I think that this has all of the above. I really do. I think it has at least a handful of songs that are on loop, on radio.
Opalite,
so
right?
Catchy.
Already is already like there
the
for
Fate
me.
of Ophelia is so catchy. Like I think it's so much fun. I also think, I think she also kind of thrives when people are like hating either direction because there was separate from the substance of the album, which I think the album is so much fun. You had like folks on the right coming for her because they always do.
Sure.
Trump doesn't like her, and that's a whole thing. But the new thing is you had people on the left, and I mean TikTokers, not politicians, but being like, oh, she's gone full trad wife because she's singing about like wanting to have kids with Travis Kelce. And I'm like, guys, you've jumped the shark if wanting to have kids with your future husband makes you a trad wife. Like, can't we all just be a little bit sane in analyzing this woman's music?
Yeah.
I think it's excellent. And I think she looks the best she ever has. I think she seems so happy and like, just, I love it.
All right. So Tortured Poets or
between
Showgirl.
the two. They're for different days.
I'm asking you to pick. You got to pick one.
But I don't know if I could pick.
I'm going Showgirl.
I think I'm going Showgirl too. I love Tortured Poets, but it's a little bit of a downer.
All right, Showgirl or Midnights?
Oh, because Midnights I think is one of my all-time favorite albums.
So Midnights.
I'm gonna go Midnights.
All right, Midnights. Reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
All right, I could do this all day.
Yeah, I know I could do it all day. But she doesn't miss. I'm just gonna say she does not miss. Like. There's not a bad album. There never will be.
She did like an hour on Jimmy Fallon and an hour on Seth Meyers. I watched both of them. They were fantastic.
Oh,
she's the best interview. She used to come on The View all the time. Just hi Taylor.
I know. No pressure. Please
no pressure.
Come on.
Yeah, she's got a documentary coming out on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe who knows? We'll try. All right, so. She announced this morning Disney's 6-part docuseries looking behind the scenes of the Eras Tour. Will you be watching?
100%. Because like my biggest regret of the last decade is I didn't go to the Eras Tour.
You never went at all?
No, I never went.
Oh my gosh!
And I saw her for 1989. Like I've seen her before, but there was never a city that worked out well for me and Justin, and he was trying to push me to go to the final Miami show, and then I just didn't, and I'm mad that I didn't.
I took the kids and flew to Toronto.
I know. That was the other option because that was one of the last ones.
Totally worth it. No regrets.
100%. But yeah, I'll totally watch it.
All right, because she might not tour again for a long time now. Yeah. All right, well.
I know everyone's already speculating that she's going to be pregnant next. Maybe we'll have babies together.
I mean.
Right? No pressure.
That'd be amazing. All right, well, thank you for joining me today, Alyssa. Tomorrow, I'll be back with Joy Behar, and we'll see you then.